So this weekend, our friend called us with 2 deer to get processed. And typically we have a deal with him that if he gets the deer, we will process it and can it and then split it 50-50. It's a great deal for both parties. The problem is I had taken 68 pounds of sausage out of the freezer to can as well. And total, we ended up with 91 jars of meat canned in one weekend, which was absolute insanity. And honestly, I'm not sure I recommend it, and I don't think I would ever do it again. But I am so just stoked about this. We've not had red meat in probably a month or so, and having canned sausage, which I've mentioned before, is just one of my ultimate favorite convenience foods to have on hand. So all of our sausage was ground, raw packed. I did, I think, 18 jars of Italian and 20 something jars of breakfast sausage. And then I think there were 53 jars or so of just stewed, cubed venison, nothing added to them except for a little bit of salt. And like I mentioned, half of those went back to our friend. So very, very productive, but very, very tiring weekend. And to give credit where credit is due, it was a full team effort. There were 5 of us literally working for the better part of 2 days, cutting meat, cleaning jars, packing jars, babysitting the pressure canners, 2 pressure canners that were going. And I definitely could not have done this myself. So very thankful for everybody that kind of came together to make this happen. Now I have to do the harder work of putting them away. I've got them cleaned. I've got to label them and actually bring them down to the canning storage area, and probably should assess what my jar count is too to see how many I've got left to fill. I also want to give just a little plug to Denali Canning, not sponsored or anything, but I used their lids for the majority of what I processed this weekend, and I only had 1 fail, and it was actually on a jar that had a crack in the rim that went undetected somehow. So I'm very, very grateful for their high quality lids. There's nothing worse than putting in tons and tons of effort and time canning and then having jars fail and not be sealed and having to use them right away. So if you are in the market for some lids or you want to stock up, you can find a link in the description of this video to get 15% off anything from their website. So it's been about a month since I've shown you guys what's going on down here in my canning storage area. We got a lot of applesauce put up. I have a few gaps here that I want to leave open for some carrots and beans. So I think my meat is going to have to go on this top shelf up here. And if it doesn't all fit, we can always add another shelf above it. I also want to take down all these empty boxes and kind of see exactly how many jars I have left. I have just kind of been cramming them up here as I need to get them out of the way. But I'd like to know exactly how many jars I have left for the rest of the sausage that we're going to have from the next few pigs we butcher, and lard as well is going to need to have some boxes. December is really the only time of year where my goal is to have every single jar that I own filled. And then as we use our jars throughout the wintertime, I don't really refill them because I want to, number one, have them available for if we make syrup in the early springtime. And number 2, I want to have them available for, summer when it's time to harvest and do a bunch of big batch canning again. So, organizing here a little bit, I think that I have about 7.5 dozen quart jars. Mostly, there's like a handful of pint jars, but mostly quart jars is what I have left. And I think I have about 5 dozen either upstairs in the kitchen or in the scullery. So that's probably really close to about what I need for the other, I think we have 4 pigs left to butcher. I can't remember. But a lot of the sausage from the next few pigs will be put into links, and that won't get canned. I'll just freeze that. But either way, filling up nicely down here. I'll do a couple jars of carrots and a couple jars of beans, just as I have canner loads that aren't completely full. I'll fill in with those items. Typically is my go-to, but hoping to be back in the garden tomorrow and maybe the next day for some final cleanup. I hope you guys have a great day. Talk to you then.